It's an interesting time right now, right? The tide's shifted now to one of efficiencies. While still people want to sort of think about doing more for less, there's still very much a case to be made now for innovation being a way to do that.
I think what's exciting about many of the projects is they're putting much more emphasis on the individual and the community who are managing themselves, organising themselves, but with support from the hospitals, the doctors, the schools and so on, rather than being passive receivers of information. And it's that much more reciprocal relationship, which is, I think, exciting, empowering, and has huge implications not only for how our public services work, but also for most charities, which tended to do things for people rather than with them.
My slight concern is that the public sector or certain people go, yeah, right, brilliant, let's do a social network, because that's what digital age means. It's like, well, you've really got to understand the problem and the needs of the people and see how technology can respond to that and not just kind of go with a one sort of size-fits-all solution.
We've essentially developed a new service around something that was existing. And that's about understanding what are the day-to-day problems to be dealt with and how do we make those not happen in the future.
I think it's important when you start this that you have a vision of where you want to get or what you hope to achieve, and that you're realistic in is this doable, and have you got the people or the contacts to make this sort of thing happen.
Innovation just has to start with the people who are doing the job. They're the biggest resource, actually. Them and the public, the people they work with, those two together are the people who will find new and better ways of doing stuff.
When you get innovators coming in who are really excited about a product, they're really excited about social good, and you put them in a room with public servants who genuinely want to be motivated, that's an amazing thing to see.
When I first met with Sidekick Studios, of course it was a completely new experience for me, working within the health service, because these are people that are very innovative, they're very creative, and they have lots of positive energy. They especially have a can-do attitude.
One of the aspects of what I found interested in this work is the gulf in knowledge between an Alison who is immersed in new technologies and probably somebody like myself who's getting up to speed with it. I've been almost like a break to, well, if I don't get it, the people in the community, some people in the community may not use it, so we've been able to tweak how this may be accessible and not only usable to people who are really into technology.
He's actually been this sort of buffer between here's what we want to do, and then he sort of translates it and then filters it out to the people that really need to know.
Participation is really key to making sure that the projects go really well. If you can really involve them as much as possible in the process, right from the design of a project through the development cycle, right the way out to delivery.
As an innovator, the real challenge is bringing together all the parties who need to be involved to make stuff happen. So from our point of view, to actually make the technology, to understand what the customer wants, to meet the customer, to get in front of the commissioners for the customer, and to bring on board all the different lobbyists, the different parts of government that are required, particularly in the public sector. That's a real challenge. In this particular area, we have got some great partners who are very proactive and want to work together to deal with problems. We knew all the contacts, we knew everybody who we'd need to flag up a problem to, and we'd know that we'd get that sort of cooperation.
I think it's really important that the collaboration between different parties, that they share the same, I guess, overall aim and have the same belief in what the project is trying to do.
Yeah, it's been a real benefit with Camden to have their enthusiasm with the project, and they believe in the project, something that they want to do more than something that they have to do.
So our great strength is that we're pretty agnostic in terms of the solution, and I think that's one of the challenges for entrepreneurs who have an idea, and it's an idea born from some personal experience, and then they're very afraid of letting go of that idea.
I mean, we very specifically set out with a specific design process where we knew that we were going to work on an idea for a while, test it with some users, and then potentially completely throw it in the bin.
Originally, Buddy started as a radio. We tried it with 5 different service users. It didn't work very well. We hit on the idea of redesigning Buddy as an SMS text messaging service. It took courage, it worked.
If you're co-creating with people, you have to be open to the suggestions that they bring and the feedback you get, and you know, it's part of that iterative process.
I think if you have a good idea, the core of it kind of always is the same, but the things that happen around that have to change and adapt. So it has this sort of really strong centre if it's a good idea.
In order to make the project work, I think the people in the council who are involved in the project need to show enthusiasm and dedication and be as passionate as I am about their job, so that they can dedicate the extra time that's needed.
With anything like this, there's risk, and trust comes into it. One of the things we worked on with Alison is that I did take time to build a relationship with Alison, that we realised our core values were similar, so that I felt able to give her the space to develop Go Genie.
They're big organisations and they take a long time to move and so on and so forth. It's very challenging, but in a good way. They're incredibly interesting contexts to work in and to try out new stuff and to try and come up with new solutions. And these are things that really matter.
I think the key to successfully working with councils is just taking a little bit of time to understand that you are working with a democratic organisation. It's not a company, and sometimes the decision-making process is a bit slower.
One of the really interesting challenges was how initially, having had all of the enthusiasm around the project, as soon as it became like a crunch time where we were going to test a product effectively with real staff, real users' information, and we had to get signatures of signing off governance, right? That became really challenging.
I think it's very easy for people who are trying to introduce new things and new ideas into local authorities to kind of immediately dismiss out of hand all the concerns there are about data as being, old-fashioned or not innovative enough. And actually, there are some very real concerns which need to be understood in detail and then addressed.
What we did with Patchwork was we showed an understanding of the risks associated with the innovation and the product. If information was to be leaked, what would the consequences of that be? And therefore we were able to talk in their language about the project and help move that forward.
It's the narrative you need. You need the efficacy, you need constant showcasing, you need to seek out your patrons and supporters and advisors, and it's proving it all before you dare to put it in front of them. And then for us, the most effective way we've done that is use teachers, social workers, academics. We have a pool, a reservoir of champions basically, and they go to every meeting with us saying absolutely this works.
There's no support around helping something start off small, grow, adapt, change, move on. Is really all of the procurement is about kind of defining what you want up front and then having it delivered, and by the time you've defined what you want, it's probably out of date anyway. So there are some quite big changes that need to happen, I think, to support that.
What do innovators most need to be good at innovation? One of our problems in the public sector is there isn't a history of serious attention to innovation, doing it systematically, understanding its skills and methods. And I think one of perhaps the bigger tasks we have over the next 10 or 20 years is essentially professionalising the very job of innovation in the public sector and civil society. It's talked about a lot, but it's not actually taken seriously in the way that it is taken seriously in science or medicine and technology. And as a result, far too many ideas never really get to fruition.